Why was Kid Flash late for school? He was fast asleep. Thanks for stopping by Comic Book Editions Volume 166, where today I'm going to complete 2 DC Comics series. The first one's from the Silver Age, and the second one's from the Bronze Age. Thanks for joining me. If you're new to my channel and haven't subscribed yet, I hope you'll take this opportunity to do so. Sharing the channel and the video with someone that might be interested is another great way to show support. Of course, give the video a like, a thumbs up, a heart, because all of that is appreciated. At the end of the video, I'll be asking and requesting some comments from you too, because I always welcome, encourage, and appreciate what you have to say. I'm so excited about today's video. This has been a long time coming. Let's get started. When I say a long time coming, the first series we're going to complete in today's video is the Silver Age Volume 1 of Teen Titans. And I have been working on this series since I was a childhood collector. And finally, I can say it's going to get completed. The first of 2 issues I have to show for you from this run is Teen Titans Volume 1, issue number 9. Of course, Nick Cardy covers. Nick Cardy heavily associated with Teen Titans among other work that he did in the Silver Age. This is from 1967. You might remember in my Comic Book Editions Volume 139 video, I had bought a copy of this from eBay and it arrived cover detached, and they said it was in a fine condition and it was nowhere around that condition. So I got a refund from the seller, but still needed to get an upgraded copy of my book. And that's where Silver Age Dave came in. The last 2 Teen Titan books that I needed for my collection, he had. So when I made that Justice League purchase from him, which incidentally, we've already done Volume 1, and probably next week we'll do Volume 2, as I'm trying to do 1 volume a month of the Justice League books that I picked up from Silver Age Dave. I inquired about the Teen Titans books, and he had the 2 that I needed. So of course I jumped on this. Nice to see Kid Flash being featured on the cover here. This story essentially takes place at Baxter Beach. There's 2 competing universities that are on spring break, and the town requests the Titans come in because they're worried about property damage and things getting pretty rough between the 2 groups during this big spring jamboree. So that's essentially what this story is about. Good cover though too. I like it. So what is the final book that I needed to complete Volume 1 of Teen Titans? It's this one, issue number 26. This is from 1970, another Nick Cardy cover. I, for a long time, thought I had this book, and the reason why, this issue is reprinted in Teen Titans 75th Anniversary hardcover, and I remembered the story, and I remember the cover from it being shown in there, to the point that I thought that I actually had the book. So luckily for my CLZ, it did remind me you don't actually have a physical copy of this book, so that's what I needed to pull off, and I can officially say now, and I'm so excited to say this, I have every issue of Teen Titans Volume 1 now. That's awesome. So this is the first appearance of Mel Duncan in this issue. So the Titans are training with Mr. Jupiter, and essentially he sends them into Hell's Corner, a very rough neighborhood, and gives them a penny each, and they can't use their costumes. They don't have their costumes or anything, and they have to survive as part of their training, their on-the-street training. And this is a very good story, and this era of Titans is really good. Much different from the earlier Teen Titans, where it was very hip, and they say stuff like, okay, Daddy-O, Flasheroo, and Wonder Chick, and they kind of had grown out of this a little bit because we're into the early 1970s now. So for my Teen Titans collection, since I have Volume 1 taken care of, and incidentally, I think probably the biggest key from Volume 1 is probably issue 1. I actually picked it up as a childhood collector. So there might be a few copies of books from this run that I might want to upgrade my copies of, but officially, Volume 1 is completed. I'm going to look into some guest appearances that the Silver and Bronze Age Teen Titans made now to keep working on the characters. I know there's some Brave and the Bold issues that I don't have that feature the Teen Titans. I don't actually have the first appearance, issue 54, although they weren't called the Teen Titans. It was just Robin, Kid Flash, and Aqualad. I don't have that, and there's a couple other ones in the 80s and 90s of Brave and the Bold that I don't have that they make an appearance. But I do have issue 60, the first time they're called Teen Titans, and the first appearance of Donna Troy. I do have that in the collection. So excited, though, to wrap up all these decades I've been working since I started collecting on this run, and it's finally done. Thank you to my friend Silver Age Dave for letting me purchase these from you. Couldn't be more ecstatic to wrap up this run. And as I said, we'll probably do volume 2, the second part of my JLA haul from Silver Age Dave, probably next week on my channel. Definitely going to be this month, but more than likely we'll probably do it next week. So before I move on to the other run that I completed, just a reminder about the GoFundMe for Comics Will Break Your Heart. Our friend Jennifer is dealing with cancer, and the community is looking to help her out the best that we can. If you're able to donate anything, it would be appreciated. The link for the GoFundMe is in the description for this video. Also, sharing the GoFundMe on your social media or in your videos would help out a lot too. So thank you for that consideration for doing so. As an original childhood collector, I started buying Batman and the Outsiders. And today we're going to wrap up that run. I bought maybe about the first 18, 19 issues or so, and then for whatever reason, I stopped. So I decided maybe about a year ago to start filling in that collection because it only went to issue 32. And you might remember in my comic book editions, volume 156, I did a full Batman and the Outsiders haul of comic books that I've added. Here's a few more that will actually wrap up the Batman and the Outsiders portion. Issue number 24 is from 1985. Of course, Batman and the Outsiders, Alan Davis and Mike W. Barr, creators behind pretty much the entire series. So the Titans are at the zoo when the zoo sort of comes under attack. And also in this issue 2, Halo first encounters a cult. So that's kind of the gist of this story. Nice Katana cover on the front, though. We're going to move on to issue number 26. Kobra. Do you remember Kobra? Not to be confused with the G.I. Joe Cobra. There's no Destro. There's no Cobra Commander. There's no Baroness in here. But DC Comics had their own terrorist organization called Kobra with a K. And they were the villains in issue number 26, the first of kind of a two-parter story. So Kobra essentially has stolen some information on U.S. defense under this Star Wars system. That was the name of this defense plans or system that they stole. And they're essentially blackmailing the United States that if you don't meet our demands, we're going to give this information to Russia because they'll meet our demands. So that's what this story essentially is about. I do remember Kobra had a several issue story arc. I think that started in 276 in the Wonder Woman comic book title from volume 1. And they even had their very own short-lived comic book for quite some time. I think I just have one issue of that in my personal collection, which I think someone gave me, or it came from a garage sale, one or the other, but I think someone gave it to me when I was a young childhood collector. So got Kobra back here. As I mentioned, this is the first of a two-part story. I actually think the cover for 27 is a little bit better. So we have the Outsiders investigating. Batman's going undercover as Charles Cromwell in the story. We also have the introduction of Emily Biggs about to become a superhero. She'll eventually become the superhero Looker. And the first steps of that happening occur in this issue as well. This issue was published at the same time that Outsiders number 1 was published. So Outsiders was a book that did not feature Batman, that was set like about in the distant future, like about 6 months in the future. And that was on Baxter paper, which was like the ooh la la of comic books back then to have a book on Baxter paper. And that was only sold directly at comic book shops. There was a number of series they did this with, New Teen Titans, Legion of Superheroes, among others too. And eventually they would reprint those in the newsstand format. I know that gets a little bit confusing. With the Outsiders, it didn't last all that long. Though. But essentially, so Batman and the Outsiders undercover trying to get these Star Wars system plans back to the government, which Kobra has stolen. They find the empty Kobra base. Kobra's gone, but they're able to locate Halo inside the base too, and she's there with her boyfriend. So they're reunited with her after being separated for a little bit. issue number 20, what do we got here? 28. 28 is up next. And I've mentioned this before too. This is that very brief time period after Crisis on Infinite Earths where the pre-Crisis Batman, he's still the pre-Crisis Batman, but he's interacting with the post-Crisis Outsiders. There's a very small period in time where that happened, and this issue falls within that time period too. The Truth About Looker Part 1, so we see that Emily Briggs has advanced into the Looker superhero by this point, and a little bit of the origin and backstory of that. By the way, we featured Batman and the Outsiders earlier this month on Fanboys Live in the Retro Review, which is archived on my YouTube channel. We did the early issues. We did their first appearance from the backup story in Brave and the Bold number 200. Then we did issue 1 and issue 2 of Batman and the Outsiders as the Retro Review. So look for that on my channel as well. If you missed it, and you can catch it on the rewind, because Batman and the Outsiders was a pretty decent series too. This is the final issue of Batman and the Outsiders. It's issue number 32. And essentially what happens is Batman kept some information regarding Markovia from Geo-Force. That's where Geo-Force is from. And because he wanted to keep him in Gotham. And the Outsiders find out about this, and they're not happy with Batman, and they're not happy under his leadership or his direction. So Batman basically says, fine, we'll just dissolve the entire team, and walks away. And Geo-Force is headed back to Markovia, and the rest of the Outsiders say, no, we are still a team. As a matter of fact, they actually say, it's like when Diana Ross left the Supremes. They still were the Supremes, just without Diana Ross. They actually say that. So this is the final issue. After this issue, the numbering continues as 33, but the title changes to Adventures of the Outsiders. So I have all of the Batman and the Outsiders comic books now, and I'm working on the Adventures of the Outsiders. And that Adventures of the Outsiders didn't last long. Several original issues, and then they started reprinting the Outsiders Baxter series for the main stage market. The direct series became available as reprints inside Adventures of the Outsider comic books, which were on the newsstand. So just a little bit left of the Adventures of the Outsiders to add into my collection. I'll have that completed. And you'll see some more Adventures of the Outsiders covers on my YouTube channel and featured comic book editions videos. But kind of a quicker video today, just to show you where I was at, and to celebrate with me, please, the success of wrapping up Teen Titans Volume 1 from the Silver Age and Batman and the Outsiders run into my comic book collection. I'm stoked about it. We'll probably do that JLA haul for you next week, as I mentioned, more books from Silver Age, Dave. Let me know what you thought about the books that I shared today. Any favorite covers of these? Are you working on any of these runs or have completed either of these runs? This dialogue about any of this and more. As said before, your comments are always welcomed, encouraged, and appreciated. Please share the channel and the video and subscribe if you aren't already to keep showing support. Fanboys Live and the Retro Review comes up Sunday. It is a live show. It is 8:15 Eastern, 7:15 p.m. Central. It involves Signature King Tony Fett, Comic Food 2814, and myself, plus Tim the Comic Collector in spirit. Would love to have Tim back as a regular on the show sometime. Hopefully that will happen soon. And then there's the YouTube short for back issue of the week for you to check out as well. 60 seconds to learn all about a great back issue that's in my comic book collection. Catch you next week for the next comic book editions video. Take care.